Greetings, fellow classic TV fans. On today's podcast, we are revisited by the multi-talented Wesley Eure, best known as Will Marshall from Sid and Marty Krofft's Land of the Lost. We discuss his busy upcoming event schedule alongside Kathy Coleman and inside the Yellow Raft. We touch on a lot of interesting and fun subjects, but I need to apologize in advance as we did grapple with a few audio gremlins along the way. I will say that for the most part, this interview is completely intact. So, enjoy! Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast, again, for his encore performance, the iconic Wesley Eure. Wesley!
Iconic, huh? I like that. People have used different adjectives. That's I like that one. I like.
Yeah, and I was thinking of it was more like a verb when I was using it on you because you're.
Well, it's like talking again, Pat.
It's like an iconic locomotive.
And I know you had Kathy Coleman who played my sister on Land of the Lost on again the other day.
Oh, you blew my surprise.
See, I knew. See, Kathy and I. She's like my real sister, and she played Holly on Land of the Lost. I played Will, obviously, and she's moved to Palm Springs, so now we actually live in the same town. You know, there'll be a knock on my door some mornings, and I open. There's a mocha frappuccino from Starbucks sitting there, and we really have been very close. And I've always said that Sid and Marty didn't just cast my TV family, but they actually gave me a real life family. And Kathy and I are actually brother and sister. And Phil Paley, who played Shaka, is just like my brother. And even Spencer Milligan, who played our dad, you know, he'll call me and go, "Hello, Wesley, this is your papa speaking." I owe Sid Marty Krofft a great deal of thanks for my extended family.
Well, we all do. I mean, let's face it, you guys are a part of American culture. I mean, there's no getting around that.
You know, it's weird. Pat, what's strange is, and it's recently I've been seeing it in print, and, you know, Land of the Lost, of course, you know, it's celebrating its 50th anniversary, and you know, people were saying, Saturday morning classic and all that, and then suddenly, it's now got Saturday morning, it's being called a cult classic, which is really interesting. That word cult is now being added a lot, which is certainly flattering and unexpected, because, you know, 50 years ago we shot Land of the Lost. None of us knew what this little Saturday morning show would be this many years later, that people would still be enjoying it, discovering it, new kids would be finding it. But so it's kind of wonderful, and of course it's all due not only to Sid and Marty Krofft, but to the sci-fi writers, David Gerrold, who Trouble with Tribbles from Star Trek, and Walter Koenig, Chekhov, who created Enoch, the talking Slisak. But there's all these major sci-fi writers that the scripts hold up so well. The effects, you know, they're from the 70s, so there's no CGI, but it's the scripts. And we are so fortunate that David Gerrold became our head writer and brought all these amazing young sci-fi writers who became the top of their field, like, you know, DC Fontana, Larry Niven, Spinrad, all these people. So, and that's the success of Land of the Lost, and that it has endured all of these years. Yeah.
Well, and so are you comfortable with that term, cult?
Well, sure. I'm thrilled to be a tiny part of it. And
it seems like that Sid and Marty Krofft's all their productions could literally be called that, you know, because
absolutely.
Campy cult.
Well, Land of the Lost was their longest running show, the most successful, and there's always, you know, they did the movie with Will Ferrell that bombed, but there's, you know, they did a remake in the 90s, and there's now talk of maybe something else coming in the future. So we'll see.
Well, we all know that it had the best actors, of course.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, they wanted Gielgud for my role, but I got it instead. James Dench was going to play Holly, but Kathy took it.
Yes, thank goodness, on all accounts. And, you know, of course, they weren't double timing working on a soap opera at the same time. You know, that's Wesley Eure, of course.
Yeah, Days of Our Lives, I was playing Mike Horton for almost a decade. And I was doing both shows at once for 3 years. And that was, listen, it was so heady. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I just got into Hollywood. I suddenly had 2 TV series at once, and they both were hits. And it was very heady. Trust me, it was like an out of body experience. I mean, in the morning, I was on the set of Days of Our Lives, filming, that my girlfriend had left me, and I was having trouble sexually, and all this stuff was going on. And in the afternoon, I'm going, "Run, Holly, run! There's a dinosaur!" And it was. I didn't even own a car. I met somebody. They went to a car auction, and there was a 1950 Riley, an old English car. And I go, "I want that one."
Well, it's funny. I'm trying to envision you without a car and just borrowing the keys from Robert Goulet to the Winnebago.
Oh, sure. IMBD and Google, there are no secrets anymore.
No, well, you told me that story, I think, in one of our first interviews, and it's resonated.
It's weird, because you got IMBD, which is, you can't lie about your age anymore. It's crazy. Like there are no secrets anymore. I think that people are entitled to their privacy and their secrets. And thank goodness there wasn't cell phones around when I was younger. So, thank goodness for that. But
it's true. Not celebrities though, Wesley. You guys are fair game. Sorry.
I don't know why I had just had this vision of a carnival with the duck shoot. I was like walking back and forth, walk the other way.
It's a challenging job. You have to be up, you have to be on, you have to carry yourself. You have to watch what you say.
Listen, Pat, it's an honor. I mean, the fact that people still remember and still want me involved in certain things, and I still have my toe in the water, and I don't take it lightly. There was when I was at the top of my game, and I had a little horse ranch. Yeah, I had a horse ranch in Los Angeles. And I remember Dennis the Menace cartoon came out, and it was in the Sunday paper back then. Remember papers? And and I read this cartoon, and I cut it out, and for years I had it framed. And it was about a 5-panel Dennis. And it was Dennis the Menace and his friend Joey were meeting their hero, Cowboy Bob. And they were going to go up to get his autograph. And they were so excited. And they go up to Cowboy Bob, and Cowboy Bob was so good to them. And Dennis and Joey were just over the top. And I forgot what the language was, to be honest, but it was something about treating, when there's success, treat it with responsibility. And Cowboy Bob had been so great to them. And I said to myself, if I ever am in that situation, if my life takes me down that road, I promise I'll be a Cowboy Bob. And for years, that was the thing I had hanging in my wall in my home, and to remind me that, this was the responsibility. If you're going to take on the jobs and you get some sort of recognition, that to embrace it and respect it.
Right. Yeah, and that's been my experience with both you and Kathy. And folks, for any of you who are struggling with the pronunciation of Wesley's last name, you can always just refer to him as Wesley Cowboy Bob. That's enough.
Yeah, I should have changed my name. Here's what happened was, Eure was my mother's maiden name, because my dad left when I was 2 and he never came back. And when I got my first job as an actor, I said, you know what, I'm not going to, and I only saw him maybe twice in my life. And he disappeared my whole life. And I thought, I'm not going to use my last name, because if I ever become successful, I don't want him to have any ties to it.
Right.
And so I used my mom's maiden name and my middle name. And, but it's Eure, E-U-R-E. I should have been Eure, or I should have been, I've always regretted that I didn't call myself Wesley Cantaloupe. So people would remember. People go, oh yeah, I'm the cantaloupe guy. Yeah, I know that. But Eure, they go, Eure. Every time I do an interview, and I go, well, just think of Europe without the hook, Eure. And so.
Yeah. And cantaloupe is cantaloupe. Thank you.
Oh, Cantaloupe.
Cantaloupe. I'm from the town of Cantaloupe. We grow cantaloupe.
I know. I used to do a lot of fundraising for actors and others for animals, which was Betty White and Loretta Swit and Joanne Worley and all these. They used to hang out and stuff. And I swear Loretta Swit, the only one that could say my name properly. She'd go, Wesley. Every time she did that, I'd just melt. Oh, hot lips. Thank you.
Oh, what a sweet lady. She was my very first podcast interview.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. Holy smokes, may as well start at the top.
Love it. Oh, my God. Most importantly, when you asked me to come back on, because you said, because we're doing this big event with the Golden Girls.
Right.
Talking about 180 in life to be, in Orinda, California, in about a week and a half, we're doing this 3-day weekend with an amazing group of people, from the writers, directors to the guest stars that are obviously still around. Obviously, the Golden Girls are no longer with us, but it's going to be an amazing weekend in Orinda, California.
Behind the Golden Curtain, yes.
Orinda is this, I never knew where Orinda was, but a year ago, David Zimrick, who owns the theater, it's an old historic theater, the Orinda Theater, put together CroftCon, like for Sid and Marty Krofft. And Sid and Marty came, and Butch Patrick came, and
Pat McCormick came. Oh.
McCormick came. But and it's amazing. Well, so Derek has this beautiful theater, and it's about 12 miles from Oakland Airport, which is across the bay from San Francisco, in this gorgeous historic town. And he's putting on this event. He asked me if I would host it. So I am going to be the official host, interviewing everyone. And it's a big 3-day event. It's going to open on Friday night with the Golden Gays. It's a drag troupe out of New York City that do a tribute. Well, yeah, tribute. They're amazing. They're coming in. They're flying in, and then we've got. Oh my God, the list of people is crazy, and I'm trying to do like a portfolio for everybody so I can interview them. But we've got Terry Hughes, who is the director, Marsha Posner Williams, who's the producer, Mark Sotkin, who was the writer-producer, Mark Cherry, who I know is one of the writers. Mark has a new series coming out, and he's like one of the most prolific writers ever. And Isabel O'Mara, she was the script supervisor, and Tracy Gamble, the writer, and Gail Parrott, a writer. We got a bunch of mutual friends that we're going to discuss, and Jim. And I have not met these people, but Jim. My God, I'm getting old. I'm trying to read everything. But as far as the performance, we've got, like, if we remember, the girl that played the young B. Arthur played Dorothy in the flashbacks. She's coming, and Blanche's heavyset sister. They had the episode about fat shaming, and the actors are like Bonnie Barlett and Jerry Hardin and Robert Picaro. Of course, if you're a Star Trek fan, Robert Picaro, the Doctor,
the AI Doctor. Mm-hmm.
Sandra Curry and Ronnie Shell, and because he's been around forever doing so many shows.
Wesley, I interviewed Ronnie 2 days ago.
You're kidding.
I am not. And talk about sharp as a tack. And you said you were old. Well.
I didn't say I was. You said it.
Oh, did I? Okay. Well, I didn't mean it. Wait a minute. No, I said poppycock.
Damn IMBT. I'm 37.
Yes. And shall remain that for the rest of my days.
I'm turning 37. Of course, I'm backing up. But
you sound like you are. Or more like 17 sometimes, especially when you and Kathy get together. Oh, my God.
I know. I'm 71 years old, so I'm getting up there.
You're 21? I'm sorry, you broke up. 21?
Yeah, 21. 71.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am.
God, can you hear me? I want to sound exactly like Wesley Eure when I'm 71. Please.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
That will be me. Back again for the 40th time. Please welcome Wesley. Wesley, Eure.
You're crazy.
But on the high note, Ronnie, 93, and he was, like I said, just, he was there and all into this event. He's really looking forward to it, which is wonderful. And of course, I told him the MC is going to take good care of you. I promise.
Well, yeah. But we also, I mean, for our fans out there, we got Molly Hogan coming, Julie McCullough is coming. It's crazy. I can't believe how many people are coming. And first of all, I'm a huge Golden Girls fan. And when they call me and ask me to host this, I go, why do you want me to host this? Get Mario Lopez. He was on the show. And get Adrienne Barbeau. She was in Maude with B.
Well, I would have voted for her, but sorry, Wes, go ahead.
She is so beautiful and so sexy.
Mm-hmm.
I was with her about 2 years ago. Not with her, at a show with her. And she's amazing. So I go up to her table. This was in Pensacola in Florida. And so I go up and said, I've got a song I want to sing you. And she goes, what? And I go, try a trio, just you, he, and me-o. And she started to howl. Years ago, when I was first went to New York, 1970, I just gotten off the road with Robert Goulet and Carol Lawrence. I was 19. And I go down to the East Village, and there is an off-Broadway show called Making a Porn Movie. It was a musical about the shooting of a porn film. And she was one of the stars. And that was one, and I remember the songs from that long ago. And that was one of them. Try a trio, just you, he, and me-o. They're all in bed. And then, there's one, you can edit this if you don't like this. I mean, under the sheets, there's 3 of them. And the sheets are going, legs are flying and stuff. And they finally all 3 of them pull down the sheet. And I go to Adrienne. I go, I've got another song. We came together. He howled. How do you remember that? I go, I was there.
I'm struggling to get my breath right now.
Oh my gosh. So funny. This was back when Hair was coming out and all the nudie musicals back in New York when they were experimenting with those. So anyway.
It would have sounded like a great time to be in New York, actually. Fresh off the Winnebago.
I know. No, I kept asking Derek Zimmer, why me? He says, because you worked with Betty. I go, yeah. I did a Password. I was kind of a semi-regular on Password Plus with Alan Ludden, her husband, when he was hosting, and then Tom Kennedy took over after Alan passed. And, I got to play with Betty, and on the show, I got to raise money with her for Actors and Others. So we knew each other, a bit in our lives. And that was my connection to Betty White. And of course, I used to play cards at Rue's house. She had this amazing, huge house in the Studio City. And like the gardens where you would think you were at this palatial estate. I think she told me one point that her gardening bill she told me a figure that was astronomical, especially for men. And she had her living room, she could see like 40 people in her living room around card tables and stuff. So we would get gathered there and play cards and games and stuff like that. But so that was my connection. I said, okay, I mean, first of all, I'm a Golden Girls freak. I love Golden Girls. And so when I'm in Mexico, because I lived half the year in Mexico, one of my favorite things is I watch Golden Girls every night before I go to bed. It's like, okay, time to go to bed. Let's watch an episode of Golden Girls.
Well, it sounds like he answered your own question there, Wesley. I mean, bona fide fan, knew the stars. You weren't on an episode, which was actually one of my next questions, but you answered that.
No.
But you wonder why. And folks, you listen to this man. Listen to him talk. You got to wonder, why would he be asked to MC anything? I mean, talk about droll, Not that guy again.
Yeah, no, fine. I've listened to your show, Pat. You taught me everything I know.
Oh, God. Oh, no. I've been discovered.
It's amazing what AI can do to make it sound interesting.
Live from the clinically depressed clinic in downtown, wherever the hell we are. It's Pat McCormick again. Oh, God.
Yeah. What people don't know is before you put it to the AI, artificial intelligence, hi, I'm Pat McCormick. This is our stuff there. And then when you put it to the AI, hi, I'm Pat McCormick. This is Wesley Eure.
Yes. Insert something with a good mood, please. Wow. I never knew I would sound so up.
I've been in a position to be interviewed a couple of times in my life. And it is truly amazing the different personalities and where a conversation will go, or who's prepared and who's not prepared.
Yeah.
Again, IMDb and Google, they make it much easier to do research, which is what I'm doing right now for all the actors and the producers and writers for Golden Girls. I'm doing a portfolio. But my favorite interview story that I ever had, I was on the Dinah Shore show singing twice. For all of you out there who remember Dinah Shore.
Of course.
I'm on the Dinah Shore show.
I like it already.
The worst interviewer I have ever experienced in my life. And you're going, really? You can't say that about Dinah Shore. If you guys remember, Dinah Shore was like, sing the USA in your Chevrolet. Is that note higher or lower? 4, 6, 6, sing the USA. So, sitting on the set with Dinah, and she has cue cards. So she's facing me, and she goes, well, Wesley, now I understand you're on a soap opera called Days of Our Lives. Tell me about it. And I'm going, well, Dinah, I start talking, and her eyes go from looking at me and starts to read the next question on the cue card, and her lips are moving. So she's not listening to what I'm saying. She's just reading the next cue. And then I'll finish. She'll turn and go, oh, Ashley, so you're on a show called Land of the Lost. How did you do both shows at once? And then I'd start talking, and then her eyes would move away and start reading the cue card for the next question. All the questions were written. She wasn't listening. And it was the most interesting experience I'd ever had being interviewed by anybody. I mean, she was a doll. I loved her. And I actually got to work with Burt Reynolds a few years later, a project that I sold to him. But she was, and I don't mean to make this sound derogatory at all, because huge fan.
Yes.
When I was a kid watching the show, singing the Chevrolet song and stuff in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, I mean, it was amazing. And suddenly to be on her show singing was out of body. I couldn't believe it.
Well, I mean, easily you could have come on and done impressions, because your rendition of her is spot on.
I'd have to give credit to a comedian named Janice Hart, who just passed away, one of my good friends. And she was amazing, and she did impressions. And that was her bit about, is it hello, say the USA, I don't know, just give me the hello. She made me laugh, and I have stolen it from Janice Hart.
Yeah, well, her reputation, Dinah's reputation, is pretty unscathed.
Oh my God.
But I can imagine how disorienting that must have been, because you're trying to carry on a conversation.
Well, she wasn't having a conversation. She literally did not listen to a word I said. And said the camera stayed on me while I talked. It didn't cut back and forth, because they cut back to her, they'd see her lips moving. So, it was, and I did it twice. So I did her show, a couple of times.
Yeah, I don't think you would see that on Carson.
No.
But it's still what a fond memory. I thought it was going to be me for sure when you said the most bizarre interview I ever had.
I didn't say worst.
Oh, okay. That's right. IMDb, you failed me again. My crack team of researchers. You said I was the weirdest, not the worst. You get your W's right, okay? You guys are fired. Okay, got it. Got them together. Well, it's funny. I'm hearing you're doing all this research, which is, of course, as an MC, you definitely want to have that down. And obviously, you have some insights on these folks and, of course, the stars themselves. And it was funny because when I was talking to Kathleen the other day, we were talking about her book.
Right. Run, Holly, run.
Yeah. And, of course, I know the contribution that you made.
So what happened was Kathy has an amazing book. It's one called Run, Holly, Run. And it won a bunch of awards, including the best autobiography indie published in, I think, 2018 when it first came out. But Erica Hagen wrote the foreword. Erica, if you're a Land of the Lost fan, you remember an episode that Kathy meets her older self in the future.
Right.
And that was the actress, Erica, that played.
That's right.
Kathy and I, me and sort of said, I was 21 or so when I was playing 16 when I was on Land of the Lost, and Kathy was 12 years old. So our dynamics were a lot of fun. She was a little kid, and we used to laugh and giggle. Well, I would, because I was more experienced, I just made sure in the first year, every time we ran out of a scene, I'd do one last turn to look at the dinosaur just to get the last close-up. Well, she caught on real quickly. So she would always try to upstage me. It became this huge joke, and we had a great time about it. So, and of course, I always had top billing on the show.
Of course.
So when her book came out, she was so excited. And she came, Wesley, look, and she showed me this beautiful cover of Run, Holly, Run, she stole my tagline, because I would always go, run, Holly, run. There's a dinosaur, there's a flea stack, there's a pakuni, there's whatever. And she said, look at my book. And I go, oh, yeah. I looked at the cover of her book, Run, Holly, Run, by Kathy Coleman. And I said, look who's got top billing. She said, what? At the very top of her book on the cover is my quote, my review of her book. And I have top billing on her own book. So every time she sells a book, I like to point out to everyone, look, I got top billing. And she looked at me and screamed at me, and we have a lot of fun.
I read that darn book, and I tell you, it was so freaking good. It glued itself to my hands. I told her that. I just could not put it down. And, your term, brutally honest, at least I know I got that one right.
When people buy her book, she says, put on your big girl pants. Because it's a ride, and it is. Her life, the ups and downs are amazing. And what she has survived and come through, and she is truly one of the kindest, sweetest, most beautiful creatures I've ever had the privilege of knowing and being part of.
Oh, but enough about her hair. Yeah. No, she is wonderful, and I'm just so glad that I'm able to call both of you guys friends. She goes a step further, though, Wesley. She is the godmother to my kitten, Peekaboo.
Wow.
Peekaboo Jones, as a matter of fact. And when she's in trouble, that's what I call her.
Well, to let people know that Kathy's dog was her dog's for years name.
Right.
So how lovely is that?
Oh, she was so touched. I was laughing about it on the interview. She sent me a box of treats and bejeweled collars and a certificate of authenticity, and on top of that, multiple autographed pictures. And at that point, I'm just like, well, I love this lady. And how could you not? But having read the book, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that she made it, because there are times where her life was literally in danger, and not by her own hand.
Oh no, we just a teaser, tied up by a boyfriend and left in the desert of Mexico. So if you want to grab that book on Amazon, it's quite a read, and it's just tragic. It's amazing. We get to do these shows, these autograph shows around the country, and we not only get to meet our fans and make new friends, but we also get to meet our heroes, people we grew up watching. Who we sit next to, like Lou Ferrigno or Gil Gerard or Sam Jones or Lottie Anderson. And
none of them make it past the raft, by the way, but
go on. But, we get to share stories, and we get to know some of these people, Melissa Gilbert, things like that. But we'll sit and talk and get into each other's lives and stuff. But what the kid actors, as we know, the stories, of course, are legendary around Hollywood, what's happened to kid actors and the struggles. And not many of them make it out sane.
Right.
It is amazing, and what Kathy went through was extraordinary. And the fact that she is who she is, and so amazing, is is a testament to not only her, but, we have people like, Paul Peterson.
Sure.
Paul, who created A Minor Consideration, which is of Stars for years. And it's hard to explain to the sadness and the struggles that many of these kids have had is over the top. Because you can imagine, you're a kid, you're suddenly the world revolves around you. Your family dynamics stop. You become the breadwinner. Everything is all about you, and whatever you want, whatever makes you happy, it's all about you. Oh my God, you're funny. You're Gary Coleman. Everything is, and then one day it just stops, and the phone doesn't ring, and it's like, what happened? And then everybody disappears, and your family's taking your money, and all of this stuff, and you have not matured enough to understand what was going on, and you thought that this would be the rest of your life, and it's not. It is a huge fall, and many kids don't make that survive that fall.
Well, that's the thing. Unfortunately, a good portion of them have not, and you can only imagine. Just at any level in show business, those disappointments are personal because it's literally a reflection on you, the person. Not necessarily the work. The work should be standalone, but you tie it to a face, and what I'm saying is it's such a brutal feeling. The highest of highs and the lowest of lows, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And yet Wesley Eure stayed on an even keel the entire time. Amazing.
But I was different. I went to New York as a teen. I was a teenager. I left home, and I went to New York, but I wasn't a kid. I was, when I got my first job was at the American Shakespeare Festival playing Ariel in The Tempest. I was 19, and I don't know. I had been raised differently. I'd been taking care of myself a lot because my mom, when my dad left, my mom went back and got her doctorate degree and became a psychologist and an attorney. But so she was working all the time. So my sister and I, we took care of ourselves. So I was always pretty independent.
Right.
And even as a little kid in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, when I was 8 years old, back in those days in the 50s, not 40s, 50s, I used to just go across the street, grab the bus, and go downtown. I'm 8 years old, and it was safe and okay in this small town of Hattiesburg. And so I had a different perspective, and I was lucky. So I wasn't not to say that I didn't have my ups and downs, and that in my struggles and trying to come to grips with some of the things I was facing or dealt with. But I was more mature and had more life experience than a lot of little kids when they're 9 and 10 years old, and suddenly they're, a superstar for a few years.
Mm-hmm. Well, which brings me to my next question. Is there a Run, Will, Run book in the works? Don't use that title. Survive, Will, Survive. No, that's not going to work.
Yeah, not very good, Pat. That wasn't, you're not clever. No.
You're awesome. I better stop now.
I've been asked a lot to do an autobiography. Problem is I'd have to tell the truth. And part of me doesn't want to. I've written 5 books. And one of my books was optioned by Disney for an animated feature, and I wrote the screenplay and the songs, a book called The Red Wings of Christmas, which you can get on Amazon. So I've written humor books and things like that, but I've never sat down to write the truth. But listen, I backpacked around the world. I slept in barnyards and snuck into Afghanistan during the Russian war in the back of a pickup truck. I had knife fights on the Irrawaddy River in Rangoon and Mandalay, and so I've had an interesting life.
But clearly not interesting enough for a book. Folks, listen to what he just said. Just another knife fight,
Another knife fight in Rangoon, yeah.
Afghanistan, nothing's better than Afghanistan under fire. I'm telling you right now. It's just...
I was trying to get to India.
Of course.
we got into Pakistan, and they only opened the border for tourists, and for 2 days, and we missed the openings. I mean, for 2 days, they opened it twice a month for 1 day. And you had to find a private vehicle to get into. There was no buses or anything. You had to go deal with somebody. And anyway, so we were thumbing around Pakistan, hitchhiking, and got up to the border, Peshawar, which of course is one of the most dangerous places right now.
Yeah.
And thumbing a ride, and we got to Peshawar, and we were going to stay at a youth hostel, and we got there, and it was closed. It had been closed by the religious groups. And this professor who spoke English said, "Hey, you can come stay with my family." And I go, "Oh yeah, okay, great. Where is he?" "Oh, Afghanistan." And he said, "Oh, okay." We get in the back of a pickup truck, and we're driving, and then somebody comes running. "All right, under the covers, everybody hide under the covers." And we throw these blankets in the back of the pickup truck over us, and we're hiding with our giant backpacks. And we're going into Afghanistan because they're searching the trucks. And we finally make it into Afghanistan. We go into his family's compound, which is like a walled, every place is like a little walled community. And they were amazing people. They were the kindest. They said, "What would you like to eat?" And I had just gotten to Pakistan. I was terrified of getting any kind of dysentery or something.
Right.
And it was cookies and oranges, some I could peel. And I said, "Well, I'd love some cookies and oranges." And they went and got them for us. And what I didn't understand was the cost of oranges and cookies was extraordinary, that was a luxury item. And the family had gone out and spent that money to treat us as if we were family. And the next day we woke up, they said, "Hey, would you like to see the cool factory? It's where their soft drink factory. We stole Pepsi's recipe." They were so proud of that. "We stole Pepsi's recipe." They gave us a tour of their factory, and then we snuck back into Pakistan, and that was just one of the adventures, and it was life-changing.
Well, I rest my case. Now you just got to get a good title, and I'll write the foreword.
How about I was on the Pat McCormick show?
Yes. 2 thumbs up. Just that right there, Wesley. It's like, come on. That people want to hear that stuff, and fortunately, they're going to hear it on my podcast, which is awesome. That's awesome. I know you and Kathy, I don't know if you're one of the few celebrities that actually like to get out and do these fan events, but boy, it sure seems like it. I mean, you're like a traveling circus with all the props and all the things you bring into it.
And the fans getting the raft, we put yellow life jackets on everybody, oars. We bring in the sleece tag heads. I direct them. We all scream like we're going over the waterfall. And who would think that a raft on the floor would be a great picture? And it is. And this was Kathy's idea like 10 years ago. And not only that, but every celebrity that's at the shows, the first day they're like, "Okay, what's going on here? No. And by the second day, they're coming to our table going, "Can we get in the raft? Can we get in the raft?" I mean, Patrick Wayne, I remember the first time we saw him, he said, No, I don't do the raft. Somebody said, "No, you have to get in the raft." It was his manager. He got in the raft, took a photo. The next day he comes to our table. "Wesley, Kathy, can I get another picture of the raft? Oh my God, everybody on Facebook's loving this. I need another picture." Everybody that we've had, from Dawn Wells to, oh my God, John Schneider, Lottie Anderson, Melissa Sue Gilbert, Alice Nardingram, Sam Jones, and the list goes. Howard Hessman, who's passed on.
Yes.
Felix Phillip, who played Cousin Ed, Gil Gerard, Buck Rogers. The list goes on and on and on.
And when I did it.
Yes. Oh, and I'm sorry. And Pat McCormick.
I knew it.
I know when this finally airs, you're going to have to put applause behind that. I know.
Absolutely. Or a gasp. One or the other. Yes, I did it. Well,
here's the deal. So we've been doing this about 10 years, and it's a hoot because most people, when they go to the shows, if they get an autograph with somebody that they're a fan of, it's standing side by side, pointing at each other. And Kathy and I said, we've got to create an experience. If we're all going to be in this together, let's make it a moment to remember. And believe me, hauling the raft and all the props is not easy. It's a lot of work, but the reward is extraordinary. If you go on my Facebook or Instagram or whatever, you'll see some of the photos and videos. But So 10 years ago, she came with this idea and I got the raft. It was fabulous. Now, 10 years later, as I've gotten older, getting up and down off the floor nonstop, like, oh, God, I want to hike. It lifts the raft up. I get in the raft. It lowers me down and then lifts me back up to get out. So, like.
Well, and on top of that, whatever you do, folks, when you do get in the raft, do not argue with the director. I made this mistake. You know, no. He didn't appreciate my oar placement. And he's like, listen.
Well, it's fun because, you know, we all get to play make-believe. So you get to be part, I mean, if you get in the raft, you become part of the cast. And we're going over the waterfall. And I do direct everybody because I want the oars in a certain position because they photograph great. They're yellow and the raft is yellow and the life jackets are yellow. And the hands and everybody, I want them to scream and I don't want anybody's hands covering anybody. We broke the record at Monster Bash. We had a raft photo with, I think, and you can watch the video of it, of over 40 some odd people. Now, not everybody could fit in the raft, obviously. Everybody was standing around it. Some people actually got on the floor and pretended they were swimming alongside the raft. Hysterical.
And I think the award goes to Howard Hessman for the most deadpan look of going over the falls of anyone I've seen on those great pics. It's hilarious in its own way.
And there's Lon Anderson with it. I mean, it was crazy. You know, the only person that's refused us so far, and is Eric Estrada.
What?
Show, and that's when Lonnie and Howard got into the raft. Howard Hessman and also Don Wells got in, and Eric said, "Nah." Now, and I'm very close friends with Rick Rosner, who created and executive produced Chips, and also I know his manager, Karen Cadle at the time. And Karen said, "Can't you get him in there? He won't do it. Larry Wilcox, they won't do it." So but my goal is one day we'll get the men.
I feel good about it. You know, his reputation is that of such a sweet, down-to-earth guy, but now...
Of course, the truth is you never know what somebody's going through that day. He may have to have a hip replacement. Who knows?
Yeah.
You have to take everything with a grain of salt because it's never about you. You never know what's going on in somebody's head. So I never take that personally.
Well, yeah, again, he really has a good reputation. So it must have just been I just went over the falls on the phone. Now you want me to do it in real life?
Exactly.
Well, okay, so we were talking about events. Now, do you and Kathy have any events coming up?
Oh, my gosh. We've never had a busier year. I think we have already done 3 this year. We have, I think, 11 left that are booked so far. From Mesa, Arizona, to Rochester, New York, to Milwaukee, to Green Bay, Wisconsin, to Wyoming, to Florida. We're going to Louisville, Kentucky. It's and we're starting to book our 50th anniversary. Land of the Lost aired from 1974 to 76. So obviously 2024 is our 50th year. So we're starting to book some of the bigger conventions. But yeah, Kathy and I are traveling. And then, of course, I've got the Golden Girls behind the Golden Curtain, which is going to be an extraordinary weekend. And in Orinda, and that's going to be May 26th through the 28th. And you can go on Facebook and look at Behind the Golden Curtain on Facebook, or just go to behindthegoldencurtain.com and all one word. And it'll come up and you get the information about tickets and things like that. And it should be quite an event. Yeah. It's something very unique. And right. It'll be interesting because being the host, and it's not about me this time. I hate this, but it's not about me. It's, I'm just the facilitator. So,
well, but with the skills, and clearly Derek knew that, I would have said perfect choice.
Well, I appreciate it.
And that's true.
My game show that I hosted for Nickelodeon called Finders Keepers, I'm told it's coming on Paramount Plus. They're going to start running the old reruns again, which will be interesting to see. That's been a while since that was on. And when I did that for Nickelodeon, that's when Nickelodeon was subscription only. And so not only, only the elitists that could afford it, were able to watch Nickelodeon back then. And then, of course, it became part of the mainstream.
Right.
But it'd be interesting to see that sort of resurge, have a resurgence back. So, but I listen, being a host is one of my favorite things on the planet Earth. Being a game show host was absolutely my dream job that I just loved. And that's, so when I watch Buzzard TV, when I'm on with Betty White or Elizabeth Montgomery or so many people,
Wow.
In fact, I just got back from Mexico. I lived half the year in Mexico, and you get residual checks. You hear about actors getting residual checks. Well, they're down to like a penny. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
A penny for the I was in the movie Being There, which won an Academy Award with Peter Sellers, and I got a penny check the other day, 1 cent. They wrote all of that paperwork in 1 cent. So I got home and there was like 11 checks from Screen Actors Guild. I mean, envelopes not open. I said, well, it's going to be like 30 cents, 40 cents or something. And they were all like, a substantial little amounts of money. And they were all from Buzzard TV, from Password Plus. I was like, oh, well, this is kind of fun. So it's funny, something you do so long ago still ripples. And like Password, Land of the Lost, unfortunately, Days of Our Lives doesn't do repeats.
Right. Still going, though. Amazing.
It is still going. It's unbelievable. I think they just signed up for another 3 years. They're on Paramount Plus now, or NBC, or which one?
I think it's NBC.
NBC, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, tell folks where they can find you, Wesley, or your preference of where folks can find out about what you and Kathy and Philip and the gang are up to.
Best way is Facebook. You go to Wesley Eure, EURE, or Instagram, or WesleyEure.com. You can find out some of the information, at least how to reach me or where to go. But, we're all over the place. And we hope to see, a bunch of people around in the next year to celebrate our 50th anniversary. And, we're looking to get out there and just celebrate this amazing milestone, because who would have thought 50 years later, a little Saturday morning show, we would still be talking about. It's crazy.
Yeah. And folks, I got to just say, Wesley and Kathy are two of the finest people I've ever had the pleasure to meet. And that's coming from the heart. It's just true. And you'll have the same experience. I promise you. So with that, before I go down the wrong road again, we better wrap that up because...
Thanks. Well, thank you for having me on again. I really appreciate it.
You guys have been really good to me, and I appreciate that too. Thanks again for joining me.
Thank you.
There you have it, another Retro TV Radio in the books. Be sure to follow Wesley Eure on all the social media links I have posted in the description, where you'll also find the website link for Behind a Golden Curtain, a celebration of the classic sitcom The Golden Girls, happening in Orinda, California. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and leave me a positive rating and review. You can find me at Golden Rage of TV on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and on Twitter at Golden Rage of TV1. This is your host, Pat McCormack, and thanks for listening to Retro TV Radio.